Hey folks, it's Nate, and it's time I got back to the drawing board, and today we are going to talk about a dark subject. We're going to talk about burying your heroes. Yes, this is kind of an extension of what I was talking about last week when I talked about Dungeons and Dragons. About the pig-headed bigots who have taken over most of our cultural touchstones. They are so narrow-minded, so focused on single things that if the entertainment they create does not resemble them in those aspects, they cannot engage with it in any way. They completely lose their minds. It's quite staggering, actually. If it doesn't have all the right skin tones, if it doesn't have all of the right sexualities, or whatever you want to call it these days, if it doesn't have all of the right dogmas about rich people and poor people and oppressed people and empowered people and all this other bullcrap they spout, they will not engage with it in any way. And the only way you can really deal with this is to basically be as intransigent as they are. I mean, there's no other way to put it. What has happened in our cultural institutions is people who are these narrow-minded people have taken over the reins of everything, and they are not going to have the reins taken away from them until they are forced to give them up. The only people who can force this is the general audience. So they are going to do these things no matter what happens. And it's true to a certain extent that they have minders. They are they answer to corporate boards and things like that. But the reality is, most of the people on those corporate boards like the stuff they're spouting because it keeps people bickering with each other and not actually challenging the cultural products that these boards put out. And they are aware that they are putting out a cultural product that allows them a certain level of power. They're not only driven by profit, profit is a part of it. But money is basically a placeholder for power. And cultural power is also, in many ways, a placeholder for money. These two things, at a certain point, become interchangeable. The statistics indicate you only need, what, about $70,000 a year to maintain yourself comfortably. Once you have that, a lot of the money you get isn't about having money. It's about having the power, the influence, the prestige. And as long as we continue to give attention to these cultural products, they will continue to have that influence, that prestige, regardless. And that's what they really crave. And they have seen that this kind of narrow-minded, culturally divisive stuff is a good way to build and maintain their power. Because everyone is going to be talking about it, and that's valuable to them. Everybody's going to be arguing about it. That's valuable to them. And people are eventually going to buy it or not buy it strictly based on team jersey, right? This is like a sports team at this point. People don't root for the Oakland A's because they're a good baseball team. I think baseball isn't my thing. But they root for it because it's their team. That's what's happening in our culture right now. And the only way to win this game right now is not to play. We have to make it clear that they are not going to get the clout they want. They are not going to be able to monetize their haters in the way they want until we completely disengage with them. You can't monetize haters if you have no haters. So what I am suggesting and recommending right now is complete disengagement from a lot of the mainstream culture that is just so boring and repetitive right now. This includes, your mainstream comics, and by mainstream I don't just mean DC and Marvel. I would recommend IDW, Image, maybe even smaller labels like Boom Studios. Although I don't know, they have had some good signs and some bad signs in the last 3 or 4 years. So disengage with that. I would disengage with Hollywood, with most of the streaming services. Yeah, I wouldn't even engage with a lot of television these days. And I don't mean don't pay for it. Don't even pirate it. Uh, because we live in an attention economy. They are monetizing their haters. Um, this is the first rule of the internet: monetize your haters. Every countercultural movement does it. We can't even let them be counterculture. They have to be a dead culture before we can bring back some part of what we love. And you know, it's very difficult in especially this atomized culture we live in, where we have very few touchstones with other people beyond culture. So the biggest part of this that I would recommend has nothing to do with culture. Go out and engage with the world immediately around you. Stop relying on these cultural things as a way to connect with other people. Start building relationships around other things than your fandoms or your video games or stuff like that. People did it for hundreds of years, and we have lost that in the last 40 or 50 years. And until we get that back, we're not going to get a healthy culture back. We are not going to be able to re-engage with the big ideas of culture until we start living out the small ideas of culture, until we start being neighborly, until we start having I really hate the term third space, but it applies here. Lots of people have used the internet and their associated fandoms as kind of a third space, but they are so filtered through corporate groups and through information clearinghouses like Facebook and Twitter. I don't know if we can really get back the stories and the myths that have permeated our culture until we have a culture beyond those things. And we've lost that. We have really lost that. So, yeah, I know lots of people, they want their Star Trek back. They want their Star Wars back. They want I I don't know, their animation, their cartoons back. They want good DuckTales without agenda. They want He-Man or She-Ra back, without some kind of crazy agenda. But as long as all of our cultural power is concentrated in that one place, once the people grab hold of that, they're going to be impossible to remove from that place, because there is no other place to go to fight back against them. There is a saying, generally credited to Archimedes, I believe. Give me a place to stand and a lever, and I can move the world. The secret to levers is the farther away they are from the thing you want to move, the less effort it takes to move that thing. If we want to move today's culture, if we want to move our heroes back to the place we believe they hold in the culture, we need to back away from them, set up the lever necessary to move them back to where they belong. We're not going to do it by constantly crowding around that thing and pushing against the cultural gatekeepers. We are going to succeed by backing away, building the lever, and then putting a hand down, and we can lift the entire cultural construct they've built. And I know that that's not exciting. It doesn't have the appeal of our old cultural heroes. I miss Star Trek. I miss it a lot. Even the Orville, which was really great, it was not really a replacement for Star Trek. Although Lost in Space comes kind of close. That's worth checking out. But for the most part, those cultural things are not where the battle is anymore. The battle is going to be to set up a lever that will get us back into the culture and let us reclaim those things. So for now, I think we really do have to set those aside. We have to focus on building our own thing. And yeah, I am working on that. I have been working on that for almost a decade now. It's a very little success, I'll admit. And this may seem self-serving, and in some ways, it is. Yeah. But you don't have to come to me for that new culture. But you have to find it. You have to find that lever to really move these people. It's not going to come from Jon Favreau. It's not going to come from Dave Filoni. It's not going to come from bringing back a good, who is J. Michael Straczynski. If you get him to write a sci-fi series today, he's not going to bring you something as good as Babylon 5. You're not going to get it because the culture has been overwhelmed by bigots. And you have to find a lever you can use to oust them. You are not going to be able to take back the levers they already have because they are already aware of those levers. We need to build a new one. We needed to do it soon. And by soon, I do really mean in the next 40 to 50 years. Because I think that's how long it's going to take to undo all the damage that's been done. Not a very positive message, I know. But it's something I really encourage people to think about. Find the new, find the exciting, find the vital culture, and that will give you the lever you need to bring back your heroes. But for now, you have to let them rest where they lie. There are some great people out there doing great work. I talk a lot in chats and on social media about Evan Royalty. He is making some brilliant short films. He's doing it on a shoestring budget. He's doing it with some very energetic and highly invested co-conspirators. I highly recommend checking him out. There are lots of other indie creators who are doing this as well. And it is these people who are going to break the hold of the narrow-minded on our entertainment. It's not hashtag campaigns. It is not merch buying drives. It is not boycotts. We live in an attention economy. You can always monetize the haters. Everyone is doing it. And I know the traditional business rags don't get it, but these up-and-comers who have the levers of cultural power understand that the game is changing. And as long as we continue to play that game, they will continue to have at least as much power as they have now. So change the game. Get the levers. That's what they did when they got themselves into these positions. And really, culturally speaking, it's the only way to oust the current cultural gatekeepers. Build something new, get the lever, throw them out. And that's the marching orders. It's the only plan that works when you're trying to change a culture. And we do need to change the culture if we want those good stories back. So, I mean, what more is there to say? Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. There's a like button and subscribe button. You can use them as you see fit. I'll talk to you later.